Okay, in this video we're going to set up some stage controls for our scene.
That's right, we're going to combine what we covered in the last couple of videos involving the use of helpers and custom attributes to create what is more or less a control rig for our stage.
Very cool, we're getting into rigging.
That's right. Now,
I like that.
You know, when you get into 3D, you're going to hear this term, rigging, and you'll hear these a lot. Now,
and some people associate them with characters, you know, but they don't necessarily have to be confined to characters.
In a lot of common instances, you will find that, you know, it is mostly dealing with characters. But a rig doesn't necessarily have to deal with characters at all. You can rig anything, because a rig is just a control system to help automate a certain task.
Cool.
It's something that you're going to put in to make the animator's life easier.
Okay.
As long as you're actually creating something and in some way hooking it up to help you animate faster, more conveniently, it can be said that you are creating a rig.
Sure.
There are all sorts of rigs out there. There's control rigs for like what we're going to do for stages. There's light rigs. Of course, there's character rigs. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
So it's sort of like you're working on a team. You could set up this control system, if you will, and you could help out someone else whose primary task is to animate.
Right. And your job in that case would be a technical director.
Cool.
Or a rigger. So let's go ahead and create a excuse me. Let's create a rig for our stage. Now, we're going to be doing this in a couple of different ways. We'll demonstrate one way just kind of to make sure that the point has been driven home, and then we'll create our final rig. And, yeah, let's just go on from there.
Okay.
So where are we going to start?
Well, why don't we start by doing a
slider.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, we'll start with the slider, and then we'll go ahead and create it a different way after that.
Okay.
Just show some multiple ways.
Sounds good.
So here's our scene as we have left it.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and bring back my 4 view, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on my layer manager. I'm going to bring back the wall and curtains so we could see them here.
Okay.
Do a little zoom it out, just, scene organization.
Right.
And so why don't we set up a slider to drive...
the door.
Yeah, okay, let's drive the door.
We'll go ahead and drive the door with a slider. Now, here's the thing, guys. We're doing this as kind of a demonstration. We're not really going to be keeping the slider rig. We just want to show a couple of different ways you can approach this, and then when you actually go through and do it yourself, you can really follow whichever way suits your workflow best.
Yeah, that works. All right, cool. Well, let's go and get started. Let's go ahead and we're already at the Helpers tab, but if you're not at the Helpers tab, it's, Create Helpers.
Okay.
And we drop down to Manipulators, and we go down to Slider here. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click my slider. There it is. Cool. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a label. I'll call it Door Open.
Yeah.
And I'll call this my Door Control.
Ooh, nice naming.
Yeah. And as you can see, it's staying fixed on our screen even when I manipulate the viewport. So you could always see it there. Very handy.
All right, so let's change some, like its min and max value. Let's set that maybe 0 to 10.
Sure.
0 to 100 is a lot of animation.
Yeah.
And X and Y position we don't really need to worry about. Of course, we can relocate that with the Select and Manipulate tool if we need to. I think that's really everything that we need to set up as far as the slider is concerned. So now how do we make this slider actually do something? If you grab the Select and Manipulator tool right now, and you were to, of course, move the slider around, you get nothing. You get no feedback whatsoever. Because now all you've done is just like going to a hardware store and bringing a switch into a room. The switch isn't wired to anything, so you can play with it all day and it won't actually get anything done.
Right.
So let's hook it up to something, and we're going to do that using
the Reaction Manager.
Cool, let's do it.
Yep. Let's go ahead and open Animation, Reaction Manager. We could see it here in all its glory. Very cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and select my master, and that will actually be the door open slider.
Yep.
So now we're going to go down to Object, Slider, and Value.
There you go.
So now we have our initial master defined for our reaction.
That's right. Now value is going to be where your slider little cursor is placed along the slider. So I mean that's your final output. As you slide back and forth, that's the number that comes out.
Now I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and pre-select my stage door.
Okay.
So I'm going to go here to Add Selected. I'm going to go down to Object Pivot Door. And then I'm going to go check the Open parameter, which allows us to open the door. In fact, we can even see it here if we go into the Modify panel. We go to Open, Degrees, and Open, Slam,
nice.
Open, Slam, Open, Slam.
Okay.
Yeah. got a little excited there.
Yeah.
All right, I am ecstatic after all. All right, so now we're going to go down to Object and Open Degrees, and now we've set up our initial default state, if you will.
And this will actually work well because the name of our slider is door open, and the door open is currently set to 0, and the door is closed. So
that makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and go with that.
So now I'm going to go to Create Mode, and we already have Select and Manipulate enabled.
Right.
So now I'm going to just drag my slider up to its maximum value.
Sure.
Now I'm going to go over to the door, and it's already selected here, so now I'm just going to open it up all the way.
Okay. Maybe a little less than that.
Yeah, I guess,
So it doesn't slam all the way.
Right, yeah, you don't want to leave a mark on that wall.
Exactly.
You know, the stage manager gets kind of ticked off.
Yeah, you got to keep painting over it.
So now we've defined our second and last state. We can turn off Create Mode, and I'm going to go ahead now and test it out. All right.
Boom, boom. So now you have this slider visible on your screen at all times.
I'm going to close my Reaction Manager, and you could even zoom up a little bit to our door. Let's see the other side of the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't that cool? I mean, you can adjust the door, move it open and close. No matter where you're looking in the scene, you've always got this slider up here.
Right. You got this really nice, convenient way to access those door controls.
That was so easy.
Yeah.
I like easy.
Very easy.
Very cool.
Now, that is just an example of one possible way that you can use one of the helpers that we talked about, along with the Reaction Manager, to create, your own control system, a control rig. Now, what we're going to be doing, we're actually going to get rid of that. We're going to recreate that control as well as some controls for our curtains using a slightly different method where we bring in a helper object and then apply the attribute holder modifier.
Sure. Yeah, and, of course, we could leave the slider up here, but the idea of having that helper object is we want all of our controls in one place.
That's right. It'd be a little odd to have, you can control the door up here, but to control the curtains, you got to grab this object over here. So we'll keep everything nice and unified, nice and consistent.
That works. I'm going to go ahead and hide my layer manager, and I'm actually, and before I delete this item, just, for good housekeeping, I want to open up my Reaction Manager and just delete this reaction.
Okay.
We've seen that before, and it's gone, and now, it has no more effect.
Gotcha.
That switch is, again, unhitched, if you will.
Sure.
So now I'm going to just go ahead and turn off Select and Manipulate, and then just select the door control and hit my delete key just to delete it out the scene. Now, if we go back to our door, you can still control it, of course, with your open parameter.
Sure. So now let's create a new object, a helper. And what kind of helper would you like to create for this?
I'd like to do a point.
Okay,
if you will.
That works. Whatever you'd like to use. I mean, either a dummy or a point is really going to work the same in this case, but it's whichever one you prefer working with.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you can even, of course, make a point look like a dummy. Click.
Sure.
It actually does right now, but I'm going to turn it into a cross.
All right.
And that's gigantic. We don't actually need it that big. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit to about 20 or so.
Gotta love that customizability.
Yeah. And I'm just going to kind of have it hang out here, to the left of my curtain and above. And so now, I'm just going to wire it up, and then you'll see how useful it is.
Okay.
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wire up our curtains. And in order to do that, of course, I'm going to adjust the curtains pivot a little bit. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop making points.
Yeah, stop making points.
Yeah.
I love it when that happens.
It's like, another
guys,
point.
Listen, even if you're a max beginner and you feel bad every time you do that, don't worry. Even the pros do it from time to time.
Exactly. Even Zach has done it.
Even I do, especially
twice.
when you get talking in a VTM and you get all excited and then it's just like, oh, dang it.
It is pretty funny, though. So now, of course, we could scale our curtains right now, but they're kind of like scaling towards the center. We actually want it to open
I've never seen a set of
left.
curtains open from the center.
That would be kind of awkward, Maybe if you had like a bunch of gypsies spilling out from the sides, but...
Okay,
anyway.
So we're going to step away from Bill's daydreaming, and let's go ahead and move the pivot point of these objects.
Smell like cabbage. Okay, so now we're going to actually adjust our pivot over.
Gypsies aren't that bad.
And, And we're going to affect pivot only. And we want to actually get the pivot of this right curtain over to the left, so when I scale it, it actually opens from the right sweeping to the left.
Sure.
So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of eyeball it. We're affecting the pivot only.
Sure.
And, about right there is good. And I'll turn that off, and now I'll select my other curtain rod, affect pivot only, and I'll move the left curtain controls pivot over to the right.
Gotcha.
Turn that off as well. So now if I go ahead and select and scale, zoom out a little bit, you can see the curtains are opening as they should.
Yeah, in fact, if you rotate around to the front of the scene there, it'd be a little bit more obvious.
Yeah, I was actually kind of looking up here while I was moving down here. Right. But, just to get a nice shaded view. There's the curtain. And the other one works as well. Let me just
you have
zoom
to
in.
Select the your control object.
Right, exactly.
There you go. And
that works as well. Great.
Excellent.
So our curtains are set up. We have our helper object in place. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a custom attribute holder.
But before you even do that, you're going to do something even more important, which is give this a name.
Absolutely. Call it stage controls.
That's right.
I was actually just about to do that, but Zach beat me to it as usual.
I know.
So I'm going to drop in my attribute holder, and I'm going to go into my parameter editor, and I'm going to set up a few attributes for this object.
Cool.
Animation, parameter editor. And we've seen this before, no big deal.
Let's make sure we just start at the top, just again as a quick review. So
absolutely.
We are adding this to the current modifier, which in this case is, of course, the attribute holder modifier.
And you know it's current because it is in gray.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll be using a parameter type of a float, so we get a number with a decimal point. So
Sure.
if we need to, kind of go in between integers, we can do that. And now, what UI type do you want to use for this?
You could use either a spinner or a slider, but I think I'll use spinners for these.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And what's the name of your parameter?
Well, for our first parameter, since we are going to be manipulating the curtains and the door, you could use either one, so I'll just call this one curtain control.
Okay.
Even better, curtain open.
Open, yeah. I'd probably
go
with
works.
curtain open.
Yeah. And you can actually see how it's going to look down here.
Sure.
Again, your...
might be a little wide.
Yeah, brings us right down to width. Why don't we shrink that up a little bit?
Okay.
Now for the range, 0 to 100,
I give it
lot.
I don't know, I know I'm picky about this, but give it a round number, like maybe 100 pixels.
Okay.
For the width up there.
Absolutely.
That would be easier to remember for a second one. They'll both line up nice.
Sure.
Right,
and the range, I'm going to make it 0 to 10.
Okay.
And the default will be 0, which is closed.
Sure, yeah, that's great. Okay, so with that, I think we're ready to add that now.
Yep. Boom. There it is down here.
There's our curtain open. Very nice.
Yep. Now we'll go ahead and set up our second parameter. And this is interesting. Actually, the values are kind of already pre-set up because it's going to remember the values from the last one.
Very nice.
So we can always tweak things as well, but in this case, we actually don't have to. So I'm going to call this one door open, just like we did on the slider. And with 100, that looks good down here. Go ahead and hit Tab just to kind of save that text. And you can see it refresh down here. And with 100, range 0 to 10, that looks good. Default 0 closed. And we'll keep it aligned on the center. And no offsets in X and Y.
Sure, you don't need them.
Go ahead and click Add. And we're done. We have our 2 custom attributes. I'm going to go ahead and close my parameter editor. And now that our control object is sort of primed, if you will, we're going to go ahead now and go to Animation and open up the Reaction Manager to set up our first reaction.
Excellent. Now, hang on. Before you do too much else, because again, we've seen the Reaction Manager a couple of times. I do want to get this out. Let's say, you've created your attributes, and you're over there looking at them, and you think to yourself, I really wish that I'd put door open up in front of curtain open.
You want to reorder your attributes.
Is there a way to reorganize these?
Absolutely.
Show me, just real quick, and then I promise I'll leave you alone for a minute.
No problem. You promise nothing.
That's right.
So, now we're going to go to the parameter editor again, if you will, making sure that our stage control is selected.
Okay.
And we can go into the edit delete mode, if you will.
Okay.
So now you see curtain open is on top,
right?
Door open is on bottom, and we want to reverse those. You can actually do these here with these up and down arrows.
Oh, cool. I was wondering what those were for.
So basically, whichever attribute is highlighted will be affected by these arrows, and you can sort of click at will and reorder as you please. And so I'll actually click down here, and you can see now that you can move it up because it can go up, but it can't go down because it's already at the bottom.
Sure, just change it once, and then we'll change it back in a minute.
Dink. I just said dink.
You did.
Yeah.
You sound like Joel now.
I know.
So go ahead and apply the changes.
Right. We'll apply the changes, and
door goes up, curtain goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. Very
nice.
Cool.
So cool. And if you want, you can put them back the way they were.
Sure, I'll do that. This time I'll start with the top one, and you can see you can't move it up because it's at the top. You can only move it
Logically.
down. Yeah. Apply changes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that
I just want to make sure everybody was clear about that, because I know, I've created custom attributes on all sorts of things in different applications, and more than once I've thought, I really wish I'd made those in a different order. I wish I could move things around a little bit. So if you need to do that, here's a way you can do it.
Yeah, very cool. So now I'm going to close this edit window by hitting the cancel button. Actually, no, I won't do that. That's silly. I'm going to hit the X on top.
Okay, man, whatever makes you feel good.
And, so why don't we go back and wire up our first reaction, which will be curtain open. So now I'm going to select my master, and that will be stage controls modified object, attribute holder, custom attributes, and curtained open right up here. Yes.
Wow, you see how that list just really starts to extend.
Yeah, it doesn't really extend too much further than that.
I know, yeah.
It's kind of a mouthful to say, but
Right.
we can, go through it pretty quickly.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
If you have a small monitor, you'll be going a lot of back and forth.
Right, just a little bit, yeah. But, we have a pretty small screen size
Yeah.
here for recording. It's not a problem for us.
All right, so
Cool.
we have our master,
Yes,
which
we
is
do.
the door open on our stage controls. So what are we going to use for slaves?
Oh, we're doing
Notice I said-
door open. Absolutely, yes. I was thinking curtain
You
open
said
for some
Well,
reason.
fine, that's no problem. It's
Yeah.
just a quick error, and people are bound to do them. So let's go ahead and just delete that, and we'll start
Sure.
a new one.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Might as well just do our curtains first.
Click on the wrong thing.
No big deal.
So
Yeah.
we'll just go ahead and we'll add this again.
We
as
could
the
have done the
master.
door before as well.
Nah, let's go ahead and hook up the curtains first because they're first on the list.
Sure.
So
Curtain
we've got a
open.
Curtain open. Voila.
And you can see it's up there.
Excellent.
So I'm going to go ahead and select our two driven objects, and I'm just going to, there's actually two ways we can do this. We could turn on here, add slave, and then actually go down and select each one separately.
But then we have to do that twice.
Right, that's two operations.
Yeah.
It's actually easier to select them both ahead of time, and then just go up here to add selected.
Right.
I like that a lot better. Less work for us. So now what we want to do is, actually, why don't we verify one more time exactly where we're going to
Awesome.
scale?
Thank you.
Just to make absolutely sure. I know it's an X, but I'm going to hit my scale tool, and then I'm going to scale it in X, and yes, just to verify. You
Well,
always
you
want to
can't
have
be
a good
too
idea. Yeah, when rigging, you always want to know exactly what parameters you're going
And,
to automate.
in some cases, now, again, we haven't really got into a long discussion over, transform coordinate systems.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have rotated the object and you're not sure about which axis to use, you may want to switch your reference coordinate system over to local on the
Sure.
object
Mhm.
before you start scaling.
Right.
Just because that is actually going to give you the true axis of that object as you scale it.
Right.
Now, again, we haven't gone into that. We will be talking about reference coordinate systems a little bit later down the road once we actually start needing to use them a little bit.
Mhm.
I did want to mention that in case, you guys are playing around on your own and you have a hard time grabbing the proper axis.
Right. No
So
problem.
there you go.
So, okay, I have my right curtain control selected. I'm now going to hold control and add to that selection the left curtain control. Click.
Mhm.
I'm going to go to my add selected, go down to transform and scale.
Okay. So
and
from here,
we have scale added.
created our first state.
Yeah.
Or our first reaction.
Yes, our initial state is set up.
Mhm.
So now I'm going to go ahead and, I am moving around a little bit more. You guys don't have to do all this moving, but, I like to know exactly what I'm clicking on.
Sure.
So, of course, we could also, hit H and go to select by name and grab stage controls there if our viewports are a little cluttered right now.
Nice.
So we have stage controls selected, and since we're manipulating the curtains, I'm going to move this up to its maximum value.
Okay.
So that's set up, and now, but before I even do that, I'm going to zero that out and turn on create mode.
Yeah.
Very important.
I was kind of thinking, but that's cool. So create mode's on. Now we change our master.
Always got to go into create mode before we start manipulating in our viewports.
Absolutely.
Very important. Bring it up to 10, and now we can actually open our curtains for our second state. So now I'm going to scale it to about 20 or so. In fact, I'm just going to move my reaction manager up a little bit.
So you can see those numbers.
Yeah, because I'm actually looking down here at this X scale. I want it to be
Gotcha.
20.
Nice.
And that's close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close enough for government work.
I'm going to go ahead to my left curtain control, and I'll go ahead and do the same thing.
Nice.
And now I'm going to go ahead and define this state, if you will.
Really, with that, you should be pretty much done.
Yeah, let's test it out. I'm going to zoom out, select my new controller object,
Yep.
and I'll just right-click here, and the curtain should close, and they do, and now open, close.
There
Very
you go.
cool.
So, yeah, you can see down there. Oh, yeah, if you rotate around the front, it's very obvious. You can see those curtains opening and closing now based off of our control. So now we don't have to grab each of those individual curtain rods when we animate. We don't have to animate those separately. We have this one convenient control off to the side of our stage that won't render, so the audience won't see it.
Yep.
We can grab it whenever we want and make whatever changes to the curtains we like. Very, very nice.
Yes, very cool. And it'll be even more useful once we wire up our door.
I agree.
So let's do that now. So we have this thing selected already, which we actually don't need to do. But I'm going to add master, and
But
then
we'll
I'll go
do
ahead
it
and
anyway.
click on it.
Yeah.
Yes, because it looks so awesome, the viewport.
That's right.
Go down to modified object, attribute holder, custom attributes, and door open.
Choose door this time.
Yeah, I will. And
I was
now
actually
let's go ahead
talking
and
down.
click on the door.
Yeah.
And go on down to, and again, we already know that we want to react, create a reaction.
With the open attribute.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So that's what we're going to add as our slave.
We'll come down to our object, and then there's open in degrees right there.
Yep, we have our first state set up. Very cool.
This is the really cool place where, the reaction manager can save you a lot of hassle later on once you get reactions made up. Because, the door open attribute is going to run in degrees.
Right.
And, so if you want to open the door up like all the way to its extent, you're probably talking, 130, 150 degrees, somewhere around there. And you may not necessarily want to animate from 0 to 130 all the time.
Right.
See, but using the reaction manager and putting this on another custom attribute, we have a nice convenient 0 to 10 we can work with.
Right.
Which is very easy to see and edit as an animation curve.
Yeah, we're sort of setting up our own range that we like better than the one that's just kind of given to us.
That's right. It's kind of just I like that, setting your own range. It's very cool.
So now we're going to create our second state, and before we move things around into viewports, we do want to turn on create mode, very important. And now we're going to go over to our custom stage controller right here. Click on that, and I'm going to select door open to its maximum value.
Crank it up.
Go down to the door, and then I'll open the door up, maybe not quite all the way again.
That's pretty good right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
And then
great.
I'll create our state, turn off create mode, and then I'll go back to our custom attribute and zero it out, and we're done.
So
open,
there you
close,
go.
open, close, open, close.
So now if you close out the reaction manager, I think we're done with it. Let's expand our perspective. Yeah, and let's just kind of show off what we've just done.
Yeah. So now when it's time to, set up our scene to animate our character coming into the stage, you don't have to go in and hunt for things and get behind the curtains. You just select this very easy to find custom attribute controller, if you will, stage controls. Yeah. So then you select that. And then we can open our curtains, hey, it's showtime. And then here he comes, open the door, there he is, wow.
Excellent.
See how easy that was?
And that's the key right there. We don't have to go and select a whole bunch of different objects. It's very easy, very quick and simple on the end.
Yeah. And then we want to close things back up again. It's like, boom, slam the door in his face, boom, curtains closed, show over.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we have shown you everything that you need to create your stage controls, and that will wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.